All right, guys, today we're going to cover when it seems like you're losing progress. And I just wanted to start with saying that this is something that is so common. In fact, more often than not, when I'm working with children that are diagnosed with autism, they will have some form of not being able to hold on to progress that they're making, whether that is language-wise or maybe hand washing routines or getting dressed, or maybe they, are frequently forgetting, in simple social situations like how to introduce themselves appropriately or how to handle losing a game with peers. And so sometimes I work with parents a lot on how to maintain a positive, real, but also productive mindset around when these setbacks are happening, because they're so common. And so I just wanted to let you guys know a couple of the pointers that I had for being able to productively deal with when you have a setback happening, when you have some regression happening with a certain skill. The first thing that I wanted to say is that you have to remember that you always get to choose how you feel. And if you're having feelings of frustration or if you're feeling defeated, those are always coming from a thought that you're having. For instance, let me give you some examples. So I feel like really common ones for parents that I've met with and have worked with when they're experiencing one of these setbacks is, I feel like it's just one step forward, two steps back all the time. And when you have that thought, and when that kind of is going through your mind mentally, that does feel really defeating. And or they'll tell me, I just feel like no matter how hard we work, it's never going to get any better. Like that's unbelievably sad. Like that's so defeating. That's so, like, why even try? And I know that, like, deep down inside, those parents are never going to give up. Those parents want what is best for their child come what may, and they're going to continue working. But it's so hard to have to battle their own feelings and their own thoughts about, I know that what I'm doing is best for my child and I am seeing progress and it's really miraculous. But sometimes with these regressions, it feels like it's all for naught. That can be really devastating to your child's progress. So I think that it's really important. Let me give you some examples of how I help parents kind of walk through what that might look like. And so, if I had a parent that's like, I feel like we're changing all of these things and we're seeing some progress, and then it just feels like, we've lost all this progress. It kind of feels like we're going nowhere. And the first thing I'll say to them, I was like, wow, okay, that is a thought that we're having that's causing a lot of what? And they'll, well, I'm frustrated. I feel defeated. I feel tired. I feel so exhausted, which is totally understandable because all of those thoughts that you're having about how this isn't really working are causing those thoughts of those feelings of defeat. So this makes absolute perfect sense that your brain is going there and your brain is doing these things. I just like to offer you guys that doesn't have to be the thought and the feeling that you go with. Because either way, if you're not going to give up, you might as well feel in a position of power. You might as well feel confidence and peace in knowing that things are happening how they need to be happening. And that you're not going to give up no matter what, rather than having to fight these feelings of defeat and doubt and frustration and still be doing all of these interventions to receive the best result for your child. So this is where I go next with a parent. Next, I would sit there and I would say, okay, like let's take a look at these thoughts. Is it true that your child really isn't making any progress? And the answer is no. Like, of course we see that they've made progress. It's just in this one area, it's really just, it's exacerbating. And Sometimes allowing yourself to call that thought out for what it is just a thought. It doesn't have to be true. Is the step that parents really, really need to be able to get back in control of their brain around this thing. So sometimes I offer alternative thoughts like, what if nothing is wrong with regression? And I'm not saying, oh yeah, it's fine that like we taught 5 words and now only 1 word is remaining, or like whatever. That's not what I'm saying. What if regression is part of the deal? What if regression is part of the progress? What if we're expecting it and it needs to happen in order for us to get to the end goal anyway? I think that right there is a lot of the difference between why practitioners will oftentimes see really, really great results and we don't have that same frustration that parents do. Parents just don't have the level of experience in knowing, like having worked with hundreds of kids maybe, they only have the experience of the one. And so when you have regression with your child, it feels like the end of the world because you haven't seen it before. You haven't seen a child come back from it before. You haven't seen hundreds of children come back from it before and make even better progress through the regression. So you don't have that experience in knowing that this is part of the deal most of the time for most children. And that right there can like change the whole perspective. And so, yeah, it might not be the best thing in the world, but ultimately you get to choose. And so you can walk yourself back. You can say, okay, we have some regression. We've lost 3 words this week. And they're no longer saying these 3 words. Okay, how do I want to feel about that? Do you want to feel confident? Do you want to feel peace? Do you want to feel strength or determination? What do you need to think in order to feel those things? If you want to feel determined, maybe you need to think something like, this is part of the progress. We have to get through the regression in order to get to the next level, next step, next goal. Maybe that's the thought that you go with, and you deliberately are going to be thinking that thought like a mantra so that you can feel that determination and you're not so concerned with feeling like everything is going wrong. You've prepared yourself to move forward through the regression so that you can get to the next level as part of the progress routine, as part of the progress trajectory. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is sometimes checking our expectations. And like I just said, parents think when they first get that diagnosis and maybe they're in ABA, maybe they're in speech therapy, maybe they're in OT, maybe they're doing all of these things. They're doing everything that they possibly can. Maybe they're working with me on like how to, fine tune all of the things that their child is doing in therapy. Maybe they're working to, maybe they don't have quality ABA therapy in their area. And so they're trying to soak up through coaching with me as much as they possibly can so that they're providing a home that is absolutely fantastic for their child's development and growth. But these things still have, like, regression is often not connected with anything that a caretaker is doing wrong or right. And so these setbacks will happen. Different setbacks will happen. Maybe it's not regression. Maybe it's a new challenge that's showing up, or maybe there's an ear infection, or I don't know, whatever it is. These things happen, right? And so the expectation is for a lot of these parents is once they get started in all of these therapies, or they're learning everything, or they're changing the environment to provide the most access to success for their child because they love them so much, and they're deep diving into all of the science and the behavior literature and all of that stuff. And they're expecting the progress to be really, really linear, and like they're just going to get better and better and better until one day they're an adult and they're able to hold a job and they're able to go to school and they're able to like do everything, like all of these wonderful dreams that we have for our children. But most of the time, progress looks like we're going up and we're going up and we're going up, but Sometimes you go back. Sometimes you go down. Sometimes you just go sideways for a while and you have a plateau. And that's fine. That's totally, totally fine, because progress isn't so much about getting to the end goal. Progress is about the pathway that you took to get there, and the things that your child learned along the way, and the relationships that they built along the way, and the trust that they gained in you along the way. And that's a beautiful thing. And sometimes you can only get those beautiful, wonderful experiences through having a plateau, through having some regression happen, through having that ear infection where, life is just sad and we can't work on any of our goals right now because it's just a little too hard. And that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. Thanks, guys. See you next week.
For those that tuned in, thanks so much for listening. If you have a question you'd like us to talk about, please send it to us at famframing@gmail.com. That's famframing@gmail.com. Also check out our social media for more great tips and resources. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next week.